Arthur Stilwell was the founder of Port Arthur. As a young boy, he met George Pullman, the maker of the Pullman rail cars. Arthur decided that he wanted to be in the rail business. With the help of Dutch financing, he built a railroad from Kansas City to Port Arthur and built a ship channel from the Gulf of Mexico to Taylor's Bayou. He had the ability of shipping Midwest grain out of Port Arthur. He built a fine hotel on Lake Sabine and wanted to make it a destination facility. He also had enough ground, 42,000 acres, for rice farming, and he started an experimental farm to see which kind of crops would grow in southeast Texas. On January the 10th, 1901, something very fortunate happened. Spindletop came in, and the Texas Company, as well as Gulf Oil, both bought 5,000 acres. The rest is history. 120 years ago, the Chamber of Commerce was formed. We helped Arthur Stilwell in his promotion of Port Arthur, doing great things for our community.
I had the privilege of serving as the Greater Port Arthur Chamber of Commerce president from 1993 until 2007. It's my privilege to be here sharing some information on the background of the Chamber of Commerce. It's near and dear to me, as you might expect. So back in 1897, the growing town of Port Arthur began to recognize that they needed an organized structure under which to operate and to start doing the things that would help with the economic and the civic matters in the city. And over the course of the next couple of years, the Board of Trade was organized. And on January of 1900, the first board meeting of the Board of Trade was held with 7 businessmen who held those key positions of the Board of Directors. And when we think about the Board of Directors, that's the key to making the Chamber the strong arm that it is. They set the policies and the governance under which the paid executive, the president, CEO of the Chamber operates, hires the staff, and go about bringing people together to do all of the great work of the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is the hub of activity, and to be a good chamber, it's bringing people together and bringing people together to share their strengths and to work with the synergy that creates the economic engine that drives leadership in the community. But the Chamber can't do that all alone. The Chamber depends on and works closely with all of the public organizations, all of the businesses, all of the entities in the community, because without one another, they would be working against each other. Today, the Chamber does a lot of work in the area of workforce development and education. If we don't have our young people having a strong education and gaining workforce skills, then the businesses won't have the future employees that are needed. And so that's one of the really big benefits. Here in our home in downtown Port Arthur is the place to be. It's a lot of activity that's going on, and this is where the Chamber is close to City Hall, close to the Economic Development Corporation, and all of those jurisdictions that work so closely together, bringing people together for the betterment of the city. Look at this community, it's thriving. There's lots more to be done, but with the Chamber and the other jurisdictions and entities working together, Port Arthur's got a very bright future.
My dad, Madison Monroe, was president of Port Arthur College. We were working on a plan to expand the curriculum to offer the Associate of Applied Science degree and the Associate of Arts degree, which would transfer to a senior college. At that point, we decided that state support would probably be the best option for us. We called on Representative Carl Parker, and we presented the idea to him, but thought that it would be a stronger package if we did the work in conjunction with Lamar University in Beaumont. The college board of trustees liked the idea, and the board of regents at Lamar and Beaumont also agreed to the idea. Carl then introduced a bill that became known as House Bill 130 that authorized Lamar to offer classes in Orange County and in Jefferson County. The Port Arthur College Board of Trustees decided to make the campus available for the purpose if a state appropriation could be secured. Carl, working with Senator DeRoy Harrington, also of Port Arthur, passed the bill and the funding to make the classes possible. The first classes at Lamar Port Arthur were offered in August of 1975. Critics at the time said that the campus would never enroll more than 300 students. The first class to enroll totaled 388. Today, under the leadership of Dr. Renard, the campus enrollment approaches 3,000. This is a special year for the Chamber as another milestone is reached. We want to add our congratulations to the Greater Port Arthur Chamber of Commerce on its 120th birthday.
The Port Arthur Chamber of Commerce and Lamar State College Port Arthur have had a long history of working together to support the community. Each of the organizations is well past 100 years old, and so there's a long list of projects that we've worked on together to improve the community and produce a future that's brighter for the community as a whole. As a result of the collaboration between Port Arthur Chamber of Commerce and Lamar State College Port Arthur, we have several measures of success that we're able to report. In terms of access to higher education, our student enrollment is at the highest level it has been in its history. In addition to that, we can also point to a diverse student population, which always makes the educational experience more valuable for students. We also have several measures of excellence that we can report to you today. Our graduation rates typically are at or beyond the state average, so we're very happy to report that students graduate or transfer to institutions of higher education to complete a four-year degree. Our employment rate for our graduates of two-year programs is also remarkable. So I think that the relationship between the Chamber and the college has helped foster both of those goals of access and excellence, and we look forward to another 100 years working with the Port Arthur Chamber of Commerce.
The Port Arthur Chamber has long been involved in politics, even in Austin. The Chamber helped organize and sponsored Port Arthur Day that became the favorite day of all in Austin, Texas. We have the contacts we've made through that in Austin, thankful for Lamar Port Arthur, our Port of Port Arthur, and our Deepwater Channel that feeds our refineries. Congratulations to the Port Arthur Greater Chamber of Commerce for being beneficial to all of us in Southeast Texas.
The news was born in a baggage car of an excursion train that came to Port Arthur in 1897. And when the news was just 2 years old, the Port Arthur Chamber of Commerce had its first beginnings. In the 120 years that have passed since then, the news and the Chamber have worked together on many projects to benefit the city of Port Arthur. When times turned tough in the oil patch, the two worked together for a successful campaign to create the Economic Development Corporation in the city. The news and the Chamber once again worked together when it was time to polish the city's diamond in the rough, or helped create the Pleasure Island Commission. The two still work together every year on projects ranging from the special tabloid published each year for the Chamber's annual banquet to the slick, glossy magazine, the Chamber's Business Directory. Happy 120th, Greater Port Arthur Chamber. Here's wishing you at least that many more.
It is my distinct honor to be able to help the Greater Port Arthur Chamber of Commerce celebrate 120 years of impacting Port Arthur, the greater community, and all of Southeast Texas. One of the focal points of the Port Arthur Chamber and the Port Arthur News is informing our own community. The Chamber does an amazing job of bringing our community together. We all do better when we have teamwork. It's one of the things that has kept Port Arthur News a viable journalism entity in this community for over 120 years, and to see that the Chamber itself is celebrating 120 years is a testament to the hardworking people who have come before, the hardworking people we have now, and the community that keeps us both going strong.
On behalf of the Port Arthur Independent School District, we congratulate the Port Arthur Chamber of Commerce for reaching the 120-year milestone. What a wonderful year it is to have the Port Arthur Independent School District and the Chamber of Commerce celebrating 120 years. And we just appreciate their diligence, their hard work, and their heart for what they do in this community and what they have done for the Port Arthur Independent School District.
We are proud to be members of the Chamber of Commerce. We have a long history together. Many of our commissioners and port staff as business leaders have served and will continue to serve the Chamber of Commerce. Part of one of the things that makes a Chamber of Commerce strong, they set the time and place to create a value proposition. The other part of that is up to the member. We need to do our part, and if you want to gain that part of the value proposition, is about participation. Your port is an economic engine with a lot of potential, much like our Chamber of Commerce. Together, let's build for the future.
Today we honor the 3 Port Arthur refineries, Motiva, Total, and Valero.
Like our founding father, Arthur E. Stillwell, and the 7 businessmen that founded our chamber,
we have evolved into a community that is rich in cultural diversity.
Now, take a look at these 3 magnificent Port Arthurans.
I am Barbara Hannah Keys. I'm the daughter of Mac H. Hannah Jr., who was a businessman. He was a civic leader and a political figure.
My grandfather did a lot of things for his community, for his family, and he was also a person who became very politically involved as well. Because of his business ventures, he was well known politically, and he helped people like Governor Allen Shivers, Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, and he also helped several presidents, one being President Lyndon Baines Johnson, who appointed him as a goodwill ambassador to Africa. And he held that post for at least 3 decades. He was a proponent of civil rights for people of color. He wanted them to have fair housing. He wanted them to have a fair quality of life. He spoke of many instances where he just had to step up and step out and be a proponent of people who could not speak for themselves. Because he had a certain voice and a certain ear to political leaders of the day, he spoke out about certain injustices. He wanted to make sure those wrongs were righted. So he accomplished a lot of things in his 94 years here on this earth. He was truly a trailblazer. I'm very proud of my grandfather. I thank God for him.
During the time I was chairman of the board of Texas Southern University, I asked my board, I got out of the chairs and made a motion that we would allow the faculty committee at TSU to form Texas Southern Finance Corporation. And they did. As we went along with that, I found out that broader areas need to be covered, such as buying mortgages on home and loaning money on signature if the person could bear it. If his credit was good enough, he could get it. And so we formed Standard Saving and Loan and got our charter in 1958. We're about a $22–23 million organization now. Well, those who came to us and was worthy of a mortgage got it. We've never been out of money. We're not a very large institution, but we have been pretty careful with our loan portfolio, and we always, if it was too big for us, we participate.
By May 1975, there were about 40,000 refugees in Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. So we started sending out the refugees. But in order for refugees to come out of the camp, we need sponsors. As Deputy Director of the United States Catholic Conference program at Fort Chaffee, I had the responsibility to go around the country and talk on radio and TV shows and asking people to sponsor those fishermen. That group is about 500 families. And 500 families of fishermen who did not speak one single word of English. It was above and beyond everything that people could imagine that they could manage. So I had to go from one city to another asking for help. So finally I came to Beaumont, Texas. And after I talked on the radio and television, I saw the Bishop of Beaumont waiting for me. And he said, we heard your call and we would like to meet with you. And there waiting for us was a group of maybe 20 people. And I have only one question to ask you first. Would you consider accepting these families of fishermen? There are 500 families who do not speak any English. Would you accept to resettle them? They hesitated because of the scope of work. The bishop, why not? So why not? Yes, why not accepting all of them? So it was a fantastic thing. It's a kind of miracle. And so I went back to Fort Chaffee to announce that now we have a place to resettle the fishermen refugee. The sponsors come originally from the group who met with me the first night at the office of the bishop. That group of 20 people went back and asked for more volunteers among the population of Port Arthur. And they come up with their friends and their relatives, and becoming sponsors of the refugees are a heavy responsibility. Because at first you have to give them lodging even in your house. And after that you will have to find a house which is available in Port Arthur. And Port Arthur at that time, south of 9th Avenue, is an area which is decrepit and which is underpopulated. And so we put the Vietnamese into those houses. I think that by being in Port Arthur, the large part of the refugees there could go back to their original profession of being fishermen. It's not only the responsibilities, but the affection which were created between the refugees and the sponsors. In most cases, initially, the refugees would call their sponsor fathers or mother. Though actually the refugees place themselves in the position of being children of these families who sponsor them. So they establish that kind of kinship which really help in the resettlement. So it's not only a practical help, but help them have a confidence in themselves, having the confidence that the community accepts them. And there is one of the best features of resettlement in Port Arthur and in the Golden Triangle.
Staff Sergeant Lucian Adams was a particularly wonderful brother. In Italy, when they first landed in the beaches of Italy, he encountered a German troop or platoon He personally eliminated one of their German modern tanks, and for that he was awarded the Bronze Star. He was called the Texas Tornado. Subsequently, when I asked him, he was very humble, very kind, soft-spoken, and he told me, he says, I was just doing my job.
I was born and reared in Port Arthur, Texas.
20-year-old Lucian Adams joined the Army in 1943 and was sent to fight in Italy with the 3rd Division of the 30th Infantry. On the Anzio beachhead, Staff Sergeant Adams knocked out an enemy machine gun position and enabled the company to advance, an action for which he would later receive a Bronze Star. But this was only a precursor to the remarkable heroism Adams would display in October of 1944 near Saint-Dié, France, where his company was attempting to open a supply line that had been cut off by the Germans.
My outfit was called to make an attack to liberate and to reestablish contact with 2 companies that had been cut off by the enemy. And my company commander selected me to make a patrol and see what was holding up. So I went and I saw 3 machine guns, on the roadside. I told him there was 3 machine guns set up there. And he says, you know what's up there? He said, you lead the company into the attack.
Adams, armed with a Browning automatic rifle, made a fearless lone assault on the enemy. Despite the intense enemy fire, Adams got close enough to the first 2 machine gunners to kill them using hand grenades. He shot and killed 6 other Germans and forced 2 of their infantrymen to surrender. Finally, Adams killed the 3rd machine gunner with a burst of BAR fire. In just 10 minutes, Adams had single-handedly cleared the woods of hostile elements and reopened the severed supply line.
I was just a youngster then. I was going to be 22 years of age, and when you're young, you have no fears generally. I never had any fear, and you do things so automatically because of the training that you had in States that you don't take time to think how serious, the predicaments you get into sometimes, that before you know it, you're in it till your head, and you just have to fight your way out. It was April 24th of 1945. There was 5 of us received the Medal of Honor at the same time. It was presented to us by General Alexander Patch, the 5th Army commander in Europe. Big thrill, big satisfaction. Look, a poor little infantryman here being decorated in Hitler's famous stadium. It's a big responsibility because you have to not only conduct yourself, with some dignity and some honor, because you're not representing yourself, you're representing the entire group of the recipients, living and posthumous awardees. So I try my best to be a good example, be a leader in being a recipient.
simply